All right, this one's sticky. This one's sticky. But for everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope. That comes out of Romans 15:4. If you don't know, Paul is who is thought to have written Romans. However, there's obviously a lot of debate about what was actually written by him, if anything was actually written by him, but rather maybe a mentee that he had, or possibly somebody who just had a collection of different pieces of writings from Paul and kind of compiled them into a scriptural text. Who knows? We never will. Especially, the longer time goes on, the less sure we can ever be about any of this stuff. Because, I mean, just the distance of now to then, but also the more time that it basically expires, the more ability bad actors have to negatively or wrongly influence historical documents, and historical knowledge. I mean, at this point, we know to a pretty high level of accuracy that much of what we are taught in school and history and things like this are just straight up not true, right? And those things were hundreds of years ago. So if we're considering texts from much longer ago that has gone through many wars, literal physical violent wars of Christians and other faiths, but primarily Christians, killing and fighting people over what's true, what's not, what is our theology, not that one, so kill them, take away their ability to read the Bible. There's so much of that through history, right? So it's super tough. But long side bar there, it was written to provide us encouragement. That's part of why it was written, certainly not all of it, but it does, if nothing else, the biblical accounts, whether they be the Jewish accounts in the Torah or they be the Christian accounts within the New Testament, either way, there is massive endurance in this. And ironically, however, I would argue that Paul's life, what he went through, what geographically, but also what he had to endure, it's funny that he's the one saying this, because I would argue that nobody other than Christ, and maybe if I really think about it, I wouldn't say this, but just off the top of my head, I feel like it's true. Other than Christ, I think Paul suffered more than probably anybody else. If everything we have is accurate and everything that's been attributed to Paul was truly Paul, then that dude went through some stuff. He was stoned. I mean, there's thoughts that he had to literally fight an animal in Ephesus. Like, there are so many different things that throughout Paul's life he had to endure, specifically with his writing to the Philippian church. And you have the verse everybody talks about that's on sports teams, stuff and like that, but it's all about endurance. Ephesians is massively about endurance, and it's because he was enduring something very difficult. So that's where his heart was, that's where his mind was on this necessity for Christians to be able to endure trials, tribulations, persecution. It's a required attribute that we have to have, that all Christians have to have. And for our lifetime, and even our parents' lifetime, that's not really been true, right? You haven't really needed to endure anything. You've had a very cushy, easy life, especially in the US when Christianity was the dominant religion. Now, however, we're heading into a phase where that's not really true. Christianity is now mocked. You're ostracized. Kids in school who claim to be Christians are not treated well. They're not accepted into friend groups. It doesn't make them accepted in the social environment. It makes them outcasts. It makes them people on the outside. It makes them weird. It makes them stupid. It's all negatively correlated nowadays. And my guess, my prediction is that as time goes on, the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the rest of my lifetime, I only think that's going to get worse. I think it's going to hit the full other end of the spectrum, where I do believe that within the next 50 to 100 years, I believe Christians will be violently persecuted. I really do. It's for a million different reasons that we could have a super long discussion on sometime. But there are so many warning signs. There are so many signals. And now we've had things like the FBI putting Christian parents on watch lists. and putting certain Catholic churches on watch lists, terrorist watch lists. Like, there are things that you could argue over the past 10 years, 20 years, but as of the past several years, 2 years specifically, in the past year, it being 2023 right now, there are literal legal actions being taken against specifically Christian groups of people, Christian groups of believers. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's not something that you can argue against. It happened. It is happening. Right? So if this is the line that as soon as they get over it and they get away with it, why would they stop? They wouldn't. They're going to continue. And it's going to slowly escalate until they get some pushback, and then they'll dial it back. This is all stress testing. This is all what is the word I want to use? The bad actors. Let's go with that one again. This is the bad actors stress testing groups of people. It's them pushing the boundary as far as they can to see what kind of reaction am I going to get from them? When will they push back? So they're going to push the envelope as hard as we let them. And as soon as we push back, they're going to dial back. And then they'll slowly escalate again until we push back again. That's why I talk to all you guys so much about, especially in our Discord. So if you want to get in that, the link is in the description. But I talk to you guys specifically on the Discord about how Christians are so passive. And in my opinion, most Christians, not all, most Christians are uneducated, at least functioning unintelligently. I'm not calling them unintelligent. I'm saying they're functioning that way. And I believe they're low EQ. They have low emotional intelligence, which if you don't know what that is, look it up. But all of these things lead to Christians as a group of people accepting whatever we're told, which is troubling, if nothing else, because it's what's led the church, the modern church system, into being such a pile of garbage where nobody has any idea what they believe. It's just whatever their pastor teaches. If you push them at all into a conversation about the theology, they're like, I have no idea. This is what I believe because the pastor said so. Well, cool. I'm a pastor. I have thousands of people to listen. So they'll just believe whatever I tell them to believe. That's scary. That's super scary. And that's why specifically I don't do that. I provide as many different options as I can. Sometimes I'll tell you where I lean, but a lot of the time I don't. I give you the information. You figure it out. Figure out what you believe. Dig into it. I'm not here to tell anybody what is true and what is untrue. I'm here to try to educate people so that they take it past what I give them and go learn more. And even if they end up on a different camp than mine, I'm cool with that because at least you got there by yourself. I would rather have our group on Discord be a whole bunch of people who disagree with each other, but intelligently got where they got by using critical thinking skills, by actually studying things, really digging into the history. Because I argue that the vast majority of Christianity are people that are brainwashed. And it's the reason I don't call myself a Christian. I do with certain people just to get the point across. But I don't consider myself a Christian at all. I don't subscribe to Christian religion. I believe in much of the Bible, not all of it. I believe that Jesus who he said he was, and I believe his tie to God. But I believe if the Bible is all you're going to look at, then I don't know how to help you. The Bible talks about books outside of the Bible, yet Christians aren't willing to read those because throughout church history we said, oh, they're not a part of the canon, not a part of the canon. Does that mean it's not important? Does that mean you shouldn't read it? I don't care if you consider it an inspired text or not at the end of it, but it provides further context. It provides a deeper understanding, right? Regardless, real long-winded to say, our life as Christians, we have not truly had to endure much. But for those who continue in the faith, I believe you're going to. And for you older cats in your 50s, 60s, 70s, you might not. You know, you're at the very beginning of this, in my opinion. But for us younger, 30s, 20s, teens, we need to be building rock solid people of faith who can defend what they believe with logic and critical thinking, because the older generation can't, because they didn't have to. We will. So if you are a Christian who really believes, educate yourself. Join our group if you're not in it. Join a different group. Follow pastors who actually go into the text and go out of the text. Have deep theological conversations. We don't have the answers, but you need to be able to at least discuss what they could be. Because in our lifetime, I mean, mark my words today, June 3rd, we will go through some kind of trial, man. And my daughter, who's 6, I think she's going to get it bad. I think that generation is going to get it bad. And like I said, I believe eventually it will become violent, physically. Could be wrong, but I really believe that, just that the way things are turning. So if you're a Christian, dig in, get your heels set, and don't just accept things that pastors or scholars, or I don't care who it is, don't accept what they tell you. I tell everybody in our group, don't accept what I tell you. Question me. If I don't have the answer, I'll get it for you. I'll get every answer I can possibly find, and then you and I can have a discussion about what the heck it means. What is the truth? And I'm 100% honest about when I don't know. I say it all the time. But regardless, you need to at least have the functioning brain power to have those discussions, because you are going to have to defend yourself and your faith and potentially your family with these things, with these beliefs, with a firm understanding of what is going on, why you're here. It's wild. It's wild. Y'all have a lovely day.